Welcome to Overseas View with Rahat Rao, and we're lucky to have very experienced journalist in our studio today. Her name is Amy Fallon. Hello, Amy. How are you doing?
Oh,
How are
thank
you?
you. Lovely to meet
Yeah,
you.
thank you
Yeah,
so much
thanks
for
for
coming.
having me.
Yes, so she worked not only in one country. This lady she worked in 5 continents as a freelancer journalist and as well some print media. And she born in Australia and her mom from Canada. No, she love her base in now in London or
All over, but yeah, back to London.
back
Yeah,
to
but I've
London.
just been in Australia and I've lived in Africa.
So I just want to ask you how you what's being a journalist experience in 5 continents. What you think? What you gonna advise
Mm,
people who are new journalists,
to
young
get
guys?
into it.
Yes,
Yeah. Um, you've got to be very curious, obviously. You have to be adaptable. You have to always be looking for stories. So reading the news every morning, getting all the newspapers and reading them, the local papers, watching the news, but talking to people as well. And yeah, just reading widely, but always looking for stories and talking to people. Yeah.
but there is a lot of risk involved. You mentioned you live, you like did coverage in 5 continents and
Mm,
also Africa and Uganda. You
I
spent some
lived
time.
in,
How long you been
yeah,
there?
I lived in Uganda for 6 years, and
Wow,
I've lived in South Africa too. Yeah.
wow. So, what is the responsibility? Like, so for the true journalist, what
Mm,
should the the journalist should be biased, unbiased, or he or she should be just give news, or they can also make the opinion.
mm,
Like if you see something wrong happening, so you still say, okay, this is wrong happening, but I'm I'm not biased. So what's the real job is a journalist?
mm,
Just to give news, or also give their opinion as
mm.
well?
I think if we're talking about news reporting, we have to be unbiased and we do need to show both sides of the story. But I think we have to be very careful that we're not giving a voice to hate or that we're not giving a voice to disinformation or misinformation or to hate speech.
But
So being yes, so true news reporting means being objective, and it means, I think to a certain extent it does mean showing both sides, but if one of the sides is spouting hate or whatever, like I think we have to be careful about that. Like we do have a responsibility now. We can't amplify voices. And this is something that's come up because of Trumpism and that, all these other issues now and like what's going on in the Middle East. And yeah, so we have to be very careful. Yeah.
yeah, but what happened is if as a journalist you go somewhere and you need to, like when you report something, obviously whoever making something wrong, you're gonna report that one. So this way, in other way, if you look, it's not
Mm,
it's unbiased, because you have to tell what is the truth.
mm,
Who is doing the oppression, or who is doing the killing people, or something happening in the world, anywhere in the world, not
mm,
only one particular area. We're not going to talk, because you work not in only one country or one continent. You
mm,
work in a 5 continent,
Well, I
which is a
have
lot,
now. Yeah.
which is a lot of experience. And being a journalist is very dangerous job. Like
Mm,
it can be very dangerous when
mm,
you're covering something, especially in the war zone,
mm,
especially in the where is a conflict. So it's not easy. It's not an
mm.
easy job,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You obviously have to take care.
and
Um.
also you have to take risk as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well. Yeah. No. True to a certain extent, or you won't get the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think when you're going and you're doing something that's extremely stupid, and when you're okay. Um.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Obviously, like you have to make that judgment. Also, because as a freelancer, you're completely on your own.
Yeah,
And you're not going to
this
have
is the good thing about the freelancer. You're not under the editorial.
Well, no, you are still, but I mean, you might not be getting expenses paid. You might not have an editor. who is saying to you, you know, be careful or don't do that or whatever. So yeah, you are to a certain extent more on your own as a freelancer. So you have to like make a lot of calls yourself. Yeah.
So, what made you to become a journalist? Like from the beginning of your life, when you're a teenager, or when later on in life, or
Yeah. No, so I did a Bachelor of Arts at uni. I thought I might become a lawyer actually, but
I
I
oh,
didn't.
we're in,
Yeah,
I'm a lawyer in other countries, so
yeah. But I didn't actually get into the I
the
didn't
law
actually
school.
make the cut. Yeah. So then I thought, and I was actually in South Africa traveling at the time after high school, and I thought I really like traveling. I'm interested in news. I'd been interested in what was going on in South Africa for a while after apartheid. So I thought I'm going to go and do a BA, and then I want to try and become a journalist. But I think just because you're curious, so the number one thing for journalism is you have to be curious and you have to obviously ask questions. Yeah,
And you have to you have to love people. You are a people person,
you have to
that
be a people person.
yeah, you need to
Yes,
like when you go to engage with people, so
yes.
you have to be people
You have
friendly.
to be personable. You have to be friendly. You have to be approachable.
And
You can't be rude.
that journalists cannot make their own opinion.
Yeah, we can. I mean, and obviously, if you're doing a news piece, a news story, I think you have to put that to like the one side. But then obviously there's public opinion journalism or op-eds, which is like where you get a certain side of the story. But if we're talking about news reporting, like I think you have to put your
Okay.
opinions to a
And
side.
I'm gonna not gonna take much of your time,
Mm,
but the thing is now if we have a social media, like you
mm,
can see the TikTok, Twitter, and
mm.
all Facebook and all these things, and YouTube. So you think mainstream media is not matter much anymore, or still matter?
No, it still matters. I think all the media, I think the mainstream media, I think the independent media, I think social media. I definitely think mainstream media has a place.
Still,
Still, yeah, I mean, and that
because I
maybe
see so
there's
many politicians on TikTok and so many actor, actress, a lot of people
mm,
in so in this
mm.
using this social
But
media.
I think at times, like take for instance X or Twitter, that feels like a bit of an echo chamber. Like everyone's retweeting someone saying the same thing.
Okay.
So, like what is said on X or Twitter might not be necessarily representative of, the broader community somewhere else. So, yeah, I think it's important. And like I'm still on it, I'm still on Twitter and I'm still looking at it.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to be careful to think that, like that's giving a fair representation of what people actually think and what's actually going on.
But about the sources, the media should, if they need to reveal their sources, they should reveal their sources or always kept like the sources not be given.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends, like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because in order to back up your story, the
Mm,
sources has to be strong. Because what happened the most of the time, the mainstream media, they said something, okay, the sources have confirmed, but they because they are protected, they just later on nothing proof. They
mm,
just create something out
mm,
of nowhere,
mm,
and then later on nobody. And if they do something about the normal people like me and you,
mm.
we don't have that many fund to fight with that mainstream
No,
media.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they have a their lawyers are very high, heavily paid, and normal person, Amy, like you and me, I'm a
Mm,
journalist as well. So if some mainstream media accuse me, I I don't have funds and
mm,
backup to, unless I am with another media, big media. I'm
mm,
with them, working with them. But if I'm a freelancer or YouTuber, I don't have that much resources to
mm.
fight back. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. And one of the stories that I've covered in the past 2 years has been the Julian Assange case, which is really interesting.
Which case?
Julian Assange,
Oh yeah.
WikiLeaks. Yeah, so I've
Okay.
been covering that in the
That guy is
UK.
still in jail.
Yeah, he's still in jail. So I'm just thinking about that.
He's
Yeah.
Australian.
Yeah, he's Australian. Yeah.
Oh my God, WikiLeaks that make a lot of headlines in the world. A
Yes.
lot of people, politicians get
Mm.
in trouble. So you think this WikiLeaks is a real or unreal?
No, it's real. Yeah, but he's still in jail, and yeah,
No,
it's.
the information he gave,
Oh yeah,
that
no,
was the real information.
yeah.
But that some country they are very shameful information.
Mm,
Like we have a in example, we have our politician, one of them, his name is Nawaz Sharif.
mm,
They like his corruption. The WikiLeaks talk about that, like a
mm.
lot of.
Oh,
So that
okay.
mean that's that can be used as evidence because this WikiLeaks are real.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's very real. Yeah.
oh. So what's your advice for the young new people for the being journalists before we
Um,
close our interview?
you have to be curious. You have to read. You have to come up with ideas. But you need to write. You need to get a lot of bylines in it, and you need to get clips. So even if it means going off and doing work experience for a couple of weeks or a couple of months or whatever, like writing for the student newspaper or something like that. Like, so you need to build up your portfolio. And the other thing I would say is it's really changed even in the past 5 years. And I think you have to be very entrepreneurial. It's very hard to do freelancing now alone and make a living from it.
Yeah.
So I think you possibly, if you're going to do journalism or freelancing at least, you may need to combine it with some other sort of work on the side, whether it's communications work or some other form of writing, or I don't know anything really, but it's very hard to do freelancing alone and
So,
make money from it.
oh,
Yeah.
how many print media you did you work in the past?
Oh,
Which?
I've worked for quite a few. So I've worked for most of the newspapers in Australia,
Oh,
the mainstream media, and then most of the national papers in the UK. And then I've worked for,
Al Jazeera.
I haven't worked for them. Hopefully, I will. Um, but I've also worked for a few places in Canada too, and South
Wow.
Africa and Africa.
So
Yeah.
you lucky you are Australian, also holding Canadian
Mm,
citizen and living in
yeah,
Britain.
I'm very lucky.
So
Yeah, I'm
gotta
very, very lucky.
so
Which I know. I know that I'm very lucky.
I
Yeah,
know. Thank you so
yeah.
much for taking your time, and we appreciate you came to our studio and give us your precious time. We wish you good luck in
Mm.
your future assignment and other work you are doing. So thanks so much for
Thank you so
thanks.
much for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.